Welcome back, guys. It's Andrew, your insurance guy here with Florin Health Advisors. Today, we're going to be going over short-term plans. Now, I get questions all the time from clients, potential clients, asking me, what's the difference between limited liability, full coverage, short-term, fixed indemnity, ACA, and everything like that. So today, we're going to hit the basics of what short-term plans and a couple of the short-term plan companies that you want to be on the lookout for. So short-term plans were created back in 2016 to kind of bridge the gap between employer coverage and your next employer. So if you're in between your jobs, in that probationary period, which sometimes will be 30, 60, 90 days or a little bit longer with your employer, this is what they came up with. So short-term plans typically last 3, 6, 9, or 12 months. And then some of those options actually went all the way to 2 to 3 years. Now, pretty much what that means is these plans would last a total of 3 months, 6, 9, 12, or let's see, you can do your 36. At that point in time, your coverage terminated, or if you're on a recycle, which is pretty much where the plan automatically renews for you, you then automatically renewed. So how short-term plans work typically is, to give you the best example, I will go over a 3-month period. So based on that, let's do a 3-month plan with a $5,000 deductible. Out-of-pocket max, let's say $10,000. So what that means is you don't have any benefits typically with these plans until you hit your $5,000 max out of pocket. And then once you hit that, you go to your co-insurance like your typical normal plan does until you reach your out-of-pocket max. Now, let's say in 2 months, you hit your $10,000, right? So you're thinking, all right, you're good to go. You're covered for a full year. You don't have any issues. You're wrong. Once this hits 3 months, if it auto-renews for another 3 months, that goes away. And you have to start all over again. So let's say, God forbid, you had surgery, and that was a $40,000 surgery. We'll go pretty expensive, $40,000. You hit your $10,000 max out of pocket, but then they come back and tell you you have 6 months of physical therapy, rehab, or whatever, and that's $150 a pop. Typically, from my experience, I don't know about everybody else, when the surgeries I've had, I had to do it 1 to 2 times a week. If that starts adding up when you're not getting any benefits. So let's say your renews, you then start back at 0 and have to hit this all over again. So this right here, you're coming 100% out of pocket, probably for the majority or all of those visits. So that's pretty much how short-term plans work on a basic level. You typically now do not get it max out of pocket. So your majority of all your short-term plans are not going to have a max out of pocket. You're going to get a deductible, which a lot of times for individuals, unless you want to pay higher, this is how they get the premium so low, is they give you $8,000, $6,000, $5,000 deductibles you have to meet before you get any kind of benefits. Now you got to be really careful with some of these plans. So the main ones you're going to want to look out for is United Healthcare, Golden Rule, that's United Healthcare short-term plan. Aetna. Now, any Aetna plan, if it's not through Obamacare or healthcare.gov, or it's not through an employer, it's short-term. So usually what it is Colonial Life, First Health, and a few others that are using the Aetna network. So you gotta be really careful with a lot of these captive sales agents. They're not gonna tell you the honest truth. They're gonna say you have an Aetna plan, but really you have a Colonial Life, or First Health plan, and that's using the Aetna network. Aetna is only available through the employer or Obamacare, which is your ACA, which is healthcare.gov, or Health Sherpa. Now, United Healthcare, you get the same plan. People will say, oh, you have a United Healthcare plan, which is true, but they're not going to tell you you have a Golden Rule plan that's short term. Okay, so you got to be very careful. You actually have National General is another big one that you have to worry about. And those are going to be the main ones that you're going to hear about most often. Now, you just got to be really careful. Always ask for your agent's NPN number, license, and to send you a health coverage summary or a brochure of the plan before ever signing up, no matter who you go with, because that way you'll see where it says Golden Rule. You'll see Colonial Life, First Health, National General, and so on. So you always want to be very careful and ask for that before ever agreeing or ever giving over payment information. You always want to see that information first. Now, another big thing with these short-term plans that you're going to run into through these companies is now after 2022, which now that is, since it's 2023, you're not going to have that auto renew anymore. So now they're supposed to tell you after the January, they're supposed to tell you how long it lasts. So it can only last 3 to 6 months. It cannot auto renew anymore. And these agents are supposed to tell you the commission they're making off that deal, which is pretty good for you guys because you can see if they're adding a bunch of things on there that you don't need, like additional protections and things that you're not asking for to make a bigger commission. Unfortunately, you'll have a lot of issues with that with these captive sales agents. That's why I always recommend looking up their national producer number through whatever state you're in. You just go to, for example, Illinois insurance lookup, and it'll go to their government website and you just type in their information and it should pop up with their profile, where they're at, where they're located, so on. Now, another big thing with these short-term plans is they don't medically underwrite you up front. So being medically underwritten means they ask you medical questions. You have to go and get a blood work done with a physical, or they'll ask you some medical questions via telephone on a recorded line, which they'll ask like if you had any surgeries, cancer, heart attack, stroke, medications you take, and so on. So they'll medically underwrite you afterwards. So God forbid, let's say you have a Golden Rule plan, right? You have a $5,000 deductible, and then it goes to your 80/20 co-insurance, right? So let's say you get a surgery and God forbid it was a heart surgery. Okay, so let's say your heart surgery was $200,000, which is pretty ridiculous, right? So what Golden Rule will do is then pull your medical records and see if you had any issues with your heart, either high blood pressure, high cholesterol, anything that would be considered a pre-existing condition that would cause you to have this surgery. If they see that, they actually can deny your claim to where you'll be then responsible for that full amount and then boot you off the plan. So a lot of agents won't let you know that when you have these short-term plans. Now, I do know Golden Rule does a little underwriting from my experience. It's not very in-depth, but they do some, so you should have a little bit better coverage for that. But a lot of these plans, if all you do is sign that dotted line and that is it, all they have to do is pull records. Typically, they're going to pull between 5 to 8 years of medical history to see if you have anything. If you do, they can deny that claim and there's nothing you can do about it. And then what they'll do is they'll boot you off. Another thing they're not going to tell you is when you do actually get medically underwritten by some of these plans, you have then an MIB report, which is pretty much your prescription profile, which is on there. You have all your records that you say yes to on that report. So if you ever do go and try to get medically underwritten again, that automatically is going to pull up before you even get to your verification or anything. It automatically doesn't pull up for those underwriters to see. So you should always want to be careful in the plans you're choosing. I do not recommend short-term plans at all whatsoever because they're not going to give you the coverage you need and they're not going to give you that in-depth long-term full coverage. Now, if you're only in between jobs, we're in that short little period between that 30 and 60 days, then they're not bad. They're going to be very affordable, but you, again, are going to get what you pay for. So I highly don't recommend them unless you need it for a very, very short period of time. And then I would recommend finding one that does have an out-of-pocket maximum. God forbid if something does happen. Knowing my luck, that's when it happens is when I don't need it or I don't have it. It's better to have and not need it than need and not have that they taught us in the military. But yeah, guys, this is your short-term plans. Again, they typically last 3 to 6 months. Some do last 12 to 36, which these got rid of. They typically don't have an out-of-pocket max, and the majority of the time don't underwrite. Now, if you have any questions, anything, click the link in the bio. I'm always here, more than happy to help with anyone. If you're confused about your current plan, if you bought a plan for 2023, you're just not sure what it entails, if it's real coverage, short-term or whatnot, feel free to schedule an appointment with me, and I'll be more than happy to walk you step by step on all those options. And again, until next time, Andrew, your insurance guy.